Hey guys, my name is Melissa Davis. I'm the founder of After the Affair, and I wanted to take a moment and welcome you. We're very glad you're here, which kind of sounds crappy because the circumstances that have brought you here are not so great. So we are very sad that that's happened, but we're really proud that you reached out and decided to ask for some help and seek some direction. So today we're going to be talking about trauma, and this is our very first session of a series of 8 sessions. And the whole point of these sessions are basically to take you from finding out about an affair where you feel like you've been sucker punched and you're on the floor like a little puddle, to giving you tools to dealing with things like anxiety, depression, finding a support group, grieving this, flashbacks, and triggers and obsessing over things. We're going to give you tools to deal with all of this and some more so that you can feel like you can get off of the floor and stand up again. So that's just basically how we're going to go. And for me, I found out about the affair when I was driving my 3-year-old to soccer practice, or to her soccer game, actually. I got a phone call from my best friend's husband. You know how that call went. And I felt like, I had this feeling like my stomach fell out into the bottom of my body, somehow into my feet, and my hands and feet got hot and sweaty. And I could hear his words, but it was like everything was circling around me. And I feel like the best way to describe it is I was in a fishbowl, and I could see everything happening, and I couldn't really hear or focus well, and things happened around me. So I managed to get my 3-year-old to her game and gave my newborn baby to my stepmother, who was there to watch, and of course she didn't know what was going on. And I stood on the field because, of course, I am this stinking soccer coach of these crazy 3-year-olds. And so I just found out about this, and I'm standing there, and it's raining. It's like, what else are we going to do here except pour some rain on them? And I'm willing myself not to throw up on the field. That was all I could do, is just not throw up. And I didn't, luckily, throw up on any 3-year-olds. And when we got home, I threw everybody in the car, packed bags. We drove north to go stay with my grandmother. I was out of it because I didn't pack anybody's underwear. Nobody had a toothbrush. We were wearing flip-flops, and it was freezing up there. We had nothing packed. We were not prepared. I could not think. I just reacted and left. And when we were there, I guess it was about a week. I don't know what happened. I don't remember. I know that everyone was still alive, so my grandmother must have been taking care of everybody. And the one thing that I remember is I compulsively took showers. I don't know the reason for it, but I felt like I found out about this other life, what I thought was going on wasn't actually going on. What I thought was mine wasn't really mine. And I felt really dirty from it, even though I hadn't made any of these decisions myself, but I felt this dirtiness, and I felt a lot of shame. And so I guess the way I handled that is I took showers and tried to wash it off of me. I took so many showers that my arms were raw. Like I was scrubbing myself, and I would just sit in the water and sob, and then I'd get out. I don't know what I would do. I'd get back in and do it again. And I just stayed like that. I stayed in this terrible place of shock and grief. And then when I did return home, what happened is I started learning more about what was going on. And so not only did I stay in that shock, kind of foggy, hazy feeling, but then I had to deal with triggers that would make me have flashbacks and obsessing over what was going on and trying to just survive a day, because I had a 3-month-old and a 3-year-old. And so all this stuff just kept piling on me, and I stayed smothered and dying, basically. I felt like, for me, I didn't find out everything at one time, which I feel like would have been more merciful. Instead, I found out things slowly over time. And I really felt like I was being held under a waterfall. And so I would be able to reach up and get some air for a little bit, long enough probably to keep me alive, and then I just get smashed back down. And so I just stayed in this getting pulverized by water over and over again because I just kept finding out more information and then dealing with it again, like the loss happened over and over again. And so today we're going to talk about just the overall trauma of finding out about an affair, because it is a big deal. And I know that we get a lot of emails, and a lot of you have said that your partners try to minimize what's going on, or they're not very patient with you and how you feel. A lot of people will say, they get responses like, it's been 2 months, why are we still talking about this? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to unpack that today. And so I'd really like to start with introducing our two fantastic therapists we've got with us. These two are women who have devoted their whole life, their education, they've spent researching and helping others with dealing with loss and trauma and just trying to reclaim life that you want. And so these two are fantastic assets for us. We're very excited to have them. Julia Christina, she is an expert in trying to, hold on, I messed with the button. Now I got distracted. Julia is fantastic at helping you navigate through the anxiety and like life gunk that tries to get all over you. And she's going to help you navigate through that and really claim that life that you really want to. And Mello has, not only is she a therapist and studied this and helps others, but she has lost both of her parents, her daughter, and discovered her husband's affairs all in a very short period. So she is our grief expert because she's studied it and learned it, has degrees in it. Well, not grief. I don't know if you can get degree, but she has walked through it and has applied this to herself. So I'm going to start with you, Julia. And if you will just talk to us about what trauma is, how big this is, and how your body, like your brain, your heart, your everything kind of responds to this.
Yeah, so thanks you guys so much for letting me be a part of your journey and to be welcoming me into your space right now. What you're going through is huge. And exactly what Melissa said, partners trying to minimize it, partners, not wanting to continue to feel uncomfortable with everything that's come up, that's going on, and trying to negate your experience or kind of take away from your experience, or maybe even make you doubt what you're thinking or feeling. That's not okay, because what you've been through is a trauma. It's a big deal. And what a trauma is any single event or a series of events, a series of things that happen that cause a fundamental shift, cause a major shift in how we think about ourselves, how we think about life, or how we think about other people. That something gets taken, and something has been taken from you. That sense of trust, like that's all we have for another human being. We have no real control over anyone, and all we have is trust. And when someone betrays that trust, something gets taken from us. Something gets it gets shifted inside of us. Maybe even it gets broken. Not that it can't be repaired, but it's never the same again. And so acknowledging that this is a huge thing, that this is both a process of grief and trauma, grieving the fact that things will never be the same. It doesn't mean you can't move forward, but it means that it's going to be different. This event caused a fundamental shift in how you see yourself, others, or the world. And so what's happening right now is when we're in states of trauma, everything is turned on its head. What you knew or what you thought you knew is no longer real in a lot of ways. And your brain is going into panic mode. Your brain is going into just like chaos, because it doesn't know where to land. It doesn't know where to ground itself. You don't know where the solid ground is right now. And so it's absolutely normal to be feeling this way. Now, it's probably not something you want to hear, that like, oh, like I want you to tell me how to stop feeling this way. But one of the first things that we have to do is we have to allow ourselves to have our feelings. Because what happens is if we listen to other people telling this to us, or if we're telling it to ourselves, you just need to get over it. You should be fine by now. You just need to not get upset about this. You just need to not let it bother you. That's not helpful. Because what that's doing is it's repressing our emotions, it's pushing it down. And then what's going to happen is it's going to keep building and building and building if our emotions are being shoved down, and they're just going to eventually end up going spraying out. Or we're going to either explode, or we're going to totally implode. One of those two things. We're going to turn against other people around us, or we're going to fully just turn against ourselves. And so really just acknowledging that this is a big deal, and no one can tell you how you should be thinking or feeling right now. Your brain is in chaos. It's trying to figure out where to land. And telling yourself not to feel what you're feeling is going to make that process of finding its footing. You will find your footing, but it's going to make that process of finding that longer and harder if you don't give yourself permission to acknowledge this as a big deal.
Yeah, I think that I see a lot of that happening, like we talked about, people not allowing it to be a big deal. So as we go through this, we're starting to see that this is in fact a massive thing we're going to have to deal with, and it's going to change who we are and how we see things, maybe forever, right? I don't know if you can go back to being who you were after you discover an affair. Maybe I'm wrong. But Mello, if you will talk to us a little bit about, we are in fact dealing with a big trauma. So what do we do next? Like, how do we start to deal with this? And I want to say recover from this, put a Band-Aid on it, like get me out of here. But what do we do to start dealing with the trauma and kind of giving ourselves tools to start facing this in really healthy ways so we don't get stuck? Because nobody wants to do it, what Julia just talked about, and push it down. Well, we might want to push it down. I like pushing things down, but it always comes up. We don't want to explode or implode. So how do we help ourselves to not do that, Mello?
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I think that what you are doing, Melissa, is phenomenal. I'm so excited to spend the next 8 weeks with you and with Julia. Julia is someone that I admire, and I've watched her personally. And Melissa, your story is astounding. And for you watching, first and foremost, I want you to take a deep breath. In through your nose, out through your mouth. I need that probably more than you did if you knew the day that I've had. But we're talking about trauma and shock and denial and anger and all these different feelings. And the first thing is, as a human being, we either fight or we flight. And a lot of times people will think flight is running away, but physically and emotionally, sometimes we shut down and we become a little bit numb. For me personally, I think that I was very numb throughout the process of finding out things. My physical and my emotional state of mind couldn't take it. So I would just kind of shut down, and I would kind of focus in on things that I believed that I could control when I had no control whatsoever. And I felt very alone and lonely. So first and foremost, besides taking a deep breath, I want to let you know you are not alone. We are with you. And I want to honor you and remind you how brave you are to even be sitting through this video and to be watching, to get the help and tools and resources that you need to move forward. So again, I honor you, and I want you to honor yourself. If I could give you a great big hug, I would. In order for you to focus in on the trauma, will seem and is the word impossible. So what I want you to do for right now is to, again, really get in touch with what you feel. And when you are triggered because you find out something else about the betrayal, about the letdown, again, losing who you were to who you are now. And prior to this, you were one way, you believed your family was intact, and now you feel kind of just all over the place and you just don't know where to go or what to do. So first and foremost, identify what you're feeling, and even in this very moment. And once you identify what you're feeling, ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What am I feeling? How am I feeling? What makes it worse? What makes it a little bit less? And also, number two is do not isolate. We tend to isolate ourselves because we don't want anyone to know. Melissa, mentioned in her introduction about the shame. I was so shameful. I wanted to hide it. So I would hide it by getting all gussied up and combing my hair and getting all done up, because I didn't want anyone to know how out of control my home was, or that I could have somehow prevented what had happened. And that was very traumatic. And you go over the betrayal in your mind over and over again. What I learned to do is to ask for help. If someone wanted to come and make us dinner, I let them. If someone wanted to come over just to watch TV with me, I'd let them. I learned to no longer isolate and to seek support where I could get it. And again, not everyone deserves to hear your story, and we'll talk about that in other weeks, but I started to lean on those that would support me without any questions asked. And they're there. Those people are there, whether you know it or not. And your friends and your family, you will find the people that will just show up for you and value them. And then I would say that you really have to, again, and you're going to hear me say this a lot over the next 8 weeks, be gentle with yourself. Allow yourself to feel what you feel. If you feel mad, it's okay to be mad. If you feel indifferent, it's okay to feel indifferent. Just allow those feelings and allow yourself to be. And understand that at this very moment, you're not going to find a solution. You may be thinking, well, what do I do? I want you to tell me how to fix this. And it's not necessarily fixing, it's learning to be in it and to move through it. Move through it. If I had a magic potion, or if I had the formula to get you through this like that, I would, trust me, and I would have done that for myself. But what I learned is to move through it and to, again, take the steps that I needed to take to really kind of, again, meet myself again and say, hi, Mello, how are you? How are you? Well, hey, I'm the betrayed Mello. And then I had to learn to be the healing Mello. And then I had to learn to be the Mello that was whole again. Was I the same, like Melissa mentioned? No, I wasn't. I had lost a lot of people, important people, and the most valuable relationship in my life, my person, my best friend, I lost what I believed that to be. And I had to redefine it and reframe it. And we'll get there. But for right now, I want you to allow yourself to go, I'm looking in the mirror, I don't know this person, but every time you look in the mirror, just say hi. And again, acknowledge yourself, acknowledge your feelings. And we sometimes think we want to be left alone, but when you really start to acknowledge yourself and what you're feeling, that's when everything starts to flow.
So, Julia, I guess if you can kind of wrap us up a little bit in talking about this. I'm not even sure what I want to ask you because there's so much to talk about. I guess, you know, if I'm watching this and I'm in the thick of it again, I'm wanting to know, you know, paying attention to how I feel, that kind of feels hard. Like when I was like truly struggling to brush my teeth that day, you know, to pay attention to how I feel, I'll be like, well, I'm pissed because this happened, or like I might just stay there. So if you can speak to maybe some ways that people can try to pay attention to how they feel and why that's important right now.
It's hard, and we can't expect ourselves to do this perfectly. There's no right way to experience trauma or to grieve. There's things that we can do that will be helpful, and there's things that we can do that are going to make it a little bit harder. But at the end of the day, I think we can all agree that we're doing our best. There's no way to navigate through this perfectly. And so even sometimes just knowing that, I mean, listening to what Mello said and just having that reassurance, rewatching this video, listening to Melissa's story and being like, okay, like that was me. And I connect with parts of her stories, or maybe I can connect with all of her story, and maybe just listening to Mello again and having those reminders. And I think just reminding ourselves that what we're experiencing is there's no right way to do it. And that there's no right way to feel. And sometimes we just, because our brain is going to want to come in and tell us, You know, it's going to want to come in and create all these stories to make us feel worse. Like, this is your fault, or you should have done this. Like Mela was saying, you should have done this, or if you only you'd done that, or if only you had seen this. Like, your brain is going to want to come in. It's going to want to try and take you down. It's going to make you go from feeling bad to worse. What you've gone through is something awful. And now what your brain is going to do is it's going to pull all of these stories and past experiences and sort of deep-seated like fears you have about yourself or insecurities that you have, and it's going to try and shove it all in your face and make you feel worse. And so why we are just trying to pay attention to what we're feeling is because when we call it out and we're able to say, like, I am feeling angry, I am feeling sad, I am feeling just so confused, I am feeling numb, I am feeling completely disconnected. And when we can do that, when we can call out the feeling and just allow ourselves to just have that feeling, what that's doing is it's preventing us from creating, like, kind of spiraling our mind out of control. Because what our mind's going to want to do, what your mind is going to want to do is say, like, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling betrayed, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling scared. And then your brain is going to come in and it's going to create all of this stuff around it. And it's either going to blame you and say, like, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you see this sooner? Like, why didn't you clue in? Like, of course someone would do this to you because you're not good enough, or you're not worthy of love, or you don't deserve to be respected. And so your brain is going to come in, it's going to kind of create all of this stuff around it and make you go from feeling bad to worse. So you're going to feel bad for feeling bad. And so what we want to do is we want to just acknowledge, like, I am feeling angry, whether or it's right or wrong, or good or bad, or healthy or unhealthy, or helpful or unhelpful. This is how I'm feeling. I am allowed to feel this way, and I don't have to create all of this stuff around it to make me feel worse. And know that your brain is still going to do it. Your brain is still going to come. Those gremlins are going to come. One of my clients said recently that the Grinch. The Grinch is going to come. And the Grinch is going to come in and try and take you down. And so why we're acknowledging this is we're just trying to say, like, this is what I'm feeling, full stop, without the judgment around what we're feeling. And even like Melissa said, even just paying attention to what you're doing. Like she said, like, sometimes I just find myself just standing there brushing my teeth, and to even if you can, to just notice the things that you're doing, to pay attention. Like, I notice myself really brushing my teeth really aggressively right now, or I notice myself, wanting to like clean everything around me, or I notice myself really wanting to shower a lot, to wash this off of me, and to just start to notice the things that you're doing, to pay attention to the things that you're doing for no other reason other than to bring your mind and to bring your brain into what you're doing and pull it out of the overthinking and over obsessing about everything else, which it's going to do. It's absolutely still going to do, but we're trying to give our brain breaks from that obsessive, spiraling, shame-inducing stuff that's going to it's going to come. It's what happens, and it's going to come. So that's why we're trying to just call out what we're thinking or feeling or experiencing or doing to get ourselves out of that spiral, at least for a second or 10 seconds or 5 minutes throughout the day, to give you a little bit of that relief.
If you're anything like me, you right now are like, hey, can you tell me exactly what to do to be done with this? And I want you to tell me, like, step 10 right now. That's totally what I always would ask for. So the answer is no. No, we cannot do that. This is going to be, we practice into 8 weeks, which is pretty fast. I'd say this could be like a year's worth of like work, perhaps. And so we're going to get there. Be patient and really stick with us with the work that we're going to give you to do, watching these sessions and putting in that effort. So be patient with us. We are going to get to that tough stuff. We're going to get to the flashbacks and obsessive thoughts and anxiety and the fear. And we're going to talk about all of that 1 week at a time. So thank you again for joining us. We are delighted that you're here, and we're going to do a lot of work. And I promise that if you stick with us and you stay the course and do the work, you're going to be really proud of the person that you become. You're going to look back and see how hard it was and how hard how the circumstances tried to break you, but they did not. And so you are strong as hell, and can get through this because you did it. So you will look back and be very proud of this, which feels odd when you're in it, but that's how I feel. And I know that's how Melo feels. And so stick it out, do the work. It's not easy and it will take some time. We'll have to be a little patient, but you will be really amped up that you did it. All right. Thanks, guys.